Hello, please, can you hear me and see me?
Yes, yes.
Right, right. Thank you. Um, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am reporting live from Eldoret City in the Republic of Kenya, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you and the ones that will be following this live stream beyond the meeting. Just as I have been introduced, my name is Gesimba Ating'ah. I am a young boy from Kenya and a young boy from Africa. So I'm very proud to be African, and I'm very happy that I have people who are here interested to listen to what we have to say. So we're here to talk about youth and their role in global peace, fostering global peace and sustainable development. So we need to have an understanding of what all these terms mean. Yeah. So the youth, of course, is individuals that are over the age of 18 and below the age of 35. I'm not really sure whether the ones that are under 17 would be classified as youth because they're generally young, yeah. But well, in this context, we will speak about the ones who are between the age of 18 up to the age of 35 as the youth. Global peace. So, what would we term as global peace? Global peace is, well, loosely what we would define as people coexisting in abundance of harmony. And there would be no existence of, any of these qualms or quarrels that actually go on. So that would be the loose definition of global peace. Sustainable development, on the other hand, sustainable development would be a situation in which people are void of want. We don't have people who have some abject poverty or people who are languishing in any of the needs that they would have. Everyone is contented. We have the basic needs sorted out for everyone, and perhaps a little bit more because life is more than just survival. Life is more than just having food and a roof over your head and having clothes on your body. Life is also a little bit of enjoyment. We need to have a little bit of vigor in our lives. So that's what I would define as the three things that we'll be talking about: the youth, the fostering of peace, and sustainable development. So let's put it into context to our situation. Yeah. In Africa, the youth are the ones that carry the bulk of the population. And this is our calling because being the majority, we need to step up and we cannot wait for anyone. Normally people say that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. We are tomorrow, yes, but we also now, because anything that is happening now is also going to affect our tomorrow. Everything that is happening today around the world, whether it is in Sudan and DRC, is going to affect how we move into the future. Because if we don't silence the guns right now, there is nothing that's magically going to happen in the next few years that we get to silence them in future. Yeah. So in as much as we are the leaders of tomorrow, we also need to work on today because it matters a huge chunk. This drives me to whatever had been witnessed in Kenya in the recent past. I'm hoping that all of us are conversant with the protests that happened in Kenya, the Gen Z, the labeled Gen Z protests. This was a call from the youth to the leadership that yes, we are watching what you're doing, and we're not really happy about it. We're not really satisfied with what you're doing because whatever you're doing today is affecting our tomorrow. You know, this was a clarion call, but majority of the youth in the country to just face the issues head on. And this would actually be the first limb of the role of the youth in fostering global peace. We need to make ourselves heard. You know, a while back, while we were in Addis for the Continental Conference, we mentioned that until the lion learns how to write, every other story is going to glorify the hunter. So that also applies for the youth. You know, if we don't learn how to write our own stories, nobody is going to say it on our behalf. Nobody is going to come and tell or advocate for youth issues if the youth cannot do it themselves, because it's a man eat man society. If we don't advocate for ourselves, then nobody is going to do it for us. Yeah. So as the upcoming youth or the existing youth across the country, across the continent, and across the globe, the first role that we have is making our voices heard. And this does not mean that we get to just shout our opinions. Yeah. There was this joke sometime earlier that your freedom to speak cannot be guaranteed completely after you have spoken. So we must also be keen that whatever we are speaking makes sense and is of great substance, that whoever is on the other end listening can actually say that, yeah, you know, actually, these people have a fair point. These people have something that they're bringing to the table. So, besides making our voices heard, I'm sorry, I'm a bit distracted because I'm seeing some notifications on the screen. Um, Besides making our voices heard, what else can we do to make sure that these voices matter? You know, getting a voice is not the end of it all. I'm pretty sure all of us have encountered being with infants in a room, being with children in a room, newborn babies. They cry a lot. They tend to make some sounds whenever they want to perhaps suckle some milk, or in any case of their discomfort, they make some sounds, they make their voices heard. But sometimes, you know, it gets irritating. So how do we make sure that we're not that irritant child on the table who just wants to hit the table, bang all the utensils, but once you're asked what you want, you don't know what you want? So the next aspect is making your voice meaningful, in that whoever we want to advocate ourselves towards, how do we make ourselves indispensable, in that whatever the youth want, what is it that is going to be of a great loss to society if our voice is not heard? And this drives me to innovation, a very important thing, or a very important role that we carry as the youth in advancement of the global peace and sustainable development is innovation. I'll point towards many of the youth incepted agencies or innovations. We have M-Pesa, we have these hailing apps. You know, we need to be in business. It's something that not many would really like to hear, but you know, they say money is what makes the world go round. So we need to also join that space. We need to make sure that we're innovative in this field of artificial intelligence in the ever evolving world, data sciences. What are we doing? Because this is largely a youth perceived area, yeah, the technical areas. So what are we doing to innovate ourselves? I'm very glad that the panel that actually invited me to speak today are offering scholarships, which I would like to invite you to partake. They offer scholarships in artificial intelligence. So this is how we can also get ahead as the youth, because once we make our voice heard to the authorities, perhaps the government, they will be like, yeah, you know, these people are actually the ones in charge of the ICT sector in this country. So if we fail to listen to these people, then we'll have crippled a section of our economic development. So what is it that we can do to sit together with these people and reach a common ground? So let's be innovative. That's another role that we have. The third role that we have in fostering global peace and sustainable development, besides being innovative, we need to be united. In Swahili, we have a proverb that says, kidole kimoja hakivunji chawa. That is, one finger cannot crush cannot crush a great insect, loosely translated. So we need to be united. We cannot delegate this youth advocacy to someone. Sometimes this tag of being called a youth leader is alienated, and people just say, Mimi, all that stuff about being a youth leader, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. It's for the ones who normally wear suits. It's for those ones who want to be politicians. But youth leadership is not only exclusive to that. Each and every one of us is a youth, and you lead your own life as a youth. So you are a youth leader even before you leave the door to go and conquer the outside world. Let's embrace this youth leadership, because once we delegate this power to anyone else, then we also lose our right to complain about it. I'm reminded of this story that I was once told as a kid, and this story was a fable, and it regarded some animals in the forest. So there was a fowl. I think, well, you must know a fowl. A fowl is this kind of a bird, and the fowl was with other animals, the lion, the elephant, and they were discussing in the wilderness that we're supposed to be having a meeting tomorrow that we will make some resolutions upon, because there had been some problems in the wilderness. There were no rain, and there was a huge drought that had stricken all the animals across the land. So they were supposed to meet tomorrow, the next day, that is. And the fowl, because the fowl was not interested in politics or these types of consensus, the fowl told the other animals, "You go to that meeting. I have something important I'll be doing tomorrow. But anything that you people will agree, I will also be party to that decision. So you do whatever you have to do. You'll just come and tell me what you have decided." And the next day, they came for the fowl. They said that, because these rains have been here and this drought has been here, we decided that we need to offer a sacrifice to the gods so that we get our rain. And because none of the animals volunteered to be there, we decided that you will be the sacrifice. So let us not be that person who is not on the table and then wants actually sustainable change to be there. We need to make our voice heard as the youth, but we also need to be there to be counted when it actually matters. Now, regarding the limb of maintaining peace, now, besides being united, we also need to understand that we need to listen. So, listening is a very huge aspect of fostering peace, because you can never achieve common ground with someone else if you don't know their perspective. So, basically, what I'm saying, we just need to have a listening ear that is quite accommodative, even to the opposite opinions than the ones that we have. Let us be accommodating of other perspectives, because we should realize we're not the only people that are staying on earth. We might have opinions as the youth, yes. We might have our own takes and perspectives with regards to pertinent matters, but we also need to listen. We need to be receptive of guidance of the older generations, and perhaps even other youth, because amongst ourselves, you can be very sure we don't have uniform opinions. So we need to listen amongst ourselves, and we also need to listen to the other generations. Now, peace is not merely the absence of war. It is also presence of harmony. So once we are speaking, we need to include all the voices. I may not agree with Gloria, for instance. I may not agree with Paula Acheng, just as I can see. But I should be able to tolerate whatever they have to say. This touches on other skills like mediation and arbitration, because dispute resolution should never be something that is my way or the highway. Someone would take the opinion that perhaps if we have a dispute with you, we need to go all the way to court. We need to make sure that one of us loses everything completely for the other to gain. One thing we need to understand is that not everyone should lose, or not everyone can get a pain for the other one to gain. Some people say no pain, no gain, but I don't really necessarily agree, because just as they say a candle doesn't lose any light by lighting another candle, it's the same when you agree to have a common ground. So we need to also tap into our other skills, the dispute resolution skills, and I believe that is something that is also going to pay off in terms of innovation. Now, sustainable development goals. I think sustainable development is inevitable when we have peace amongst ourselves. It's just about planting that seed. And once we have that seed planted amongst all of us, in that we are interwoven and we are united, we've made our voices heard, and we are peaceful in our differences, then development is going to come in and of itself. Perhaps I have a diverse opinion with my fellow youth. I will also innovate in another direction. Perhaps I am not interested in data science. I'm interested in artificial intelligence. We don't agree, yes, but that is also an avenue for innovation. So sustainable development would also be born of that piece, that I don't feel like we are in competition with my fellow youth, but they complement me. Yeah. So I think that would be all. Now, to point towards the challenges, because I'm informed that we're a little bit pressed of time. Um, One of the challenges I've actually mentioned is that we delegate this perceived youth leadership to a specific group in the society. We don't want to own our spot in the society. We want to say these people are the youth leaders. They're the ones who have emerged. They're the ones who like to wear suits and issue press conferences. So let them do it. And we're not interested, perhaps, in democracy. This voter apathy, as one of my friends, Carol, mentioned, it's the birth of poor leadership. Let's be interested in the issues that affect us. Another challenge is the commercialization of youth activism. The commercialization of youth activism is something that has plagued majority of the youth in our continent. We have to admit, and this is where people they auction their audience, and they put a price tag on what they are advocating for. So it's a challenge because we're not doing really good financially as Africans, but we should not sell ourselves for 30 pieces of silver, 30 pieces of gold. There should not be any instance where I want to stand in representation of law students, perhaps, and then I want 100,000 shillings, 100,000 Kenya shillings for me to talk about an issue. I should have to say it out of my own volition. So those are the two challenges that I think really plague our development or our integration as the youth, because then, in the absence of people who would like to step up and do so in an integral manner, then, of course, the kakistocracy begins to kick in. And those are the challenges that plague us as the youth. So with that short presentation, I would like to hand the microphone back to our moderator for the next course of action. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Gesimba. What a powerful presentation it is. Can you please join me to just appreciating our speaker once more time? This is amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Gesimba, for the wonderful presentation that you just gave on our role as young people. I just remembered that you talked about a candle not losing its light by lighting another candle. So allow me to just issue or rather announce that this is the next session for the Q&A before we summarize what the speaker talked about. So I'm opening the floor for question and answer. Um, if you have any question in line to what the speaker has talked about, please feel free to just raise your hand or unmute and speak. Yes, I can see very familiar faces on the crowd today. I I see a lady by the name Faith from Riara University. I can also see our Secretary General there. I see our very key diplomatic and partnership mission ambassador who's also on call today. So just to acknowledge the presence of our president, Abdullahi Falati, and also the ambassador, please, if you have any question, just raise your hand so that you can select you to ask our speaker. Okay, so I'm going to lead with the first question to our speaker. Mr. Gesimba, my question is directly to as Africans, we have you have just acknowledged that we're a continent, we do not have enough funding and all of that. So what do you think? Yeah, I mean, most of the startup projects of the young people across the continent, most of them, they face the similar problem, the lack of finances to drive their ideas into fruition. So what do you think we should do as young people to ensure that our projects become successful?
Right. I believe I'm unmuted. So, thank you for the question. And well, it's a valid concern. So, to respond to that, I would simply say there is no shame in starting small. You know, we are not really privileged to the level that we would get huge amounts of capital and such. So there is really no shame in starting small. I joke with my friends that in 2022, when we were having general elections here in Kenya, I was a hawker, and we used to hawk with my friends some drinking water to the long lines of voters and diluted juice. So there is really no problem in starting small. There is no shame in starting huge, but there is also no shame in starting small. Let us also find our own solutions to our own problems. I know some of this capital question comes in when we are talking about the big companies, the blue collar companies that we want to start. We probably want to start $1 million company, but we cannot live the American dream in Africa. Let's just live the African dream in Africa. And when we find solutions to our own problems, it's proven that it's going to work. I earlier mentioned when I was talking about innovation, M-Pesa, and M-Pesa was a youth-led inception in Kenya. It was a youth-led inception at a point where Kenya was also not doing well financially, but it proved to be a solution to Kenyans and to Africans, and that is how it actually got to grow to the global scene. Yeah, so let's find our own solutions to our own problems, and we'll do well. And let's also not have any shame in starting small. I can see a hand up.
Ambassador Philbert, proceed. Yes, thank you so much, Gesim.
Okay, sorry, I just needed to unmute myself. I'm so sorry. I was just going to ask a question. In terms of I know about all of the SDGs that you spoke of, but in terms of young people who are starting out as entrepreneurs, who want to set up their own practices and whatever else they're interested in, do you think it would be a good idea for um, the countries across Africa to start um, reverting back to cooperatives as a way of having funding for startups, rather than these young people actually having to approach banks and big investors and going into debt? Do you think that that would be a good idea to revert back to cooperatives?
Yeah, sorry, moderator. May I proceed? Am I allowed to proceed?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador, for your question. And I actually do agree that cooperatives is a great avenue in establishing some of the links that we need among the youth. Um, just quite skeptical on the formalities. Recently, been speaking on establishing the same with some of my friends from Ghana and South Africa, and you find that the formalities are the problem, in that registration in Kenya may be a bit cheap, the registration in the other country may be quite expensive or a bit stringent in terms of the laws that are applicable that allow such. But it's a very great avenue, of course, in conjunction with implementation of utility of the African Continental Free Trade Area. So I believe that's actually where we are heading, because the world is now becoming a small village. It's a global village, just has been termed. So I believe cooperatives are a great venture and a great avenue to explore in terms of linking the youth who would like to be innovative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I love the direction to which the webinar is going. Another question? Do we have any other question from the crowd? Miss Faith Mwende, do you have a question to our speaker today?
Good evening, Cecilia. I just joined out of a pure interest, and I have really learned a lot from the webinar. I'm just intaking. I'm a sponge right now. I'm just happy to take in as much as I can.
Well, wonderful. I think I'm also a bit jealous because you have definitely gained a lot. This is amazing. We're here to get a question from a gentleman. I see Daniel Chirono. I see some other gentlemen, Lamek. If you have a question, this is your only time to speak to the country director. Just raise your hand or unmute, then I shall hand you the microphone to speak. I see Collins Munene just joined. So Collins, now that you joined, I am going to just get to you directly. Do you have a question regarding the topic today and the presentations that have just been delivered? All right. Okay. So our honorable country director, Mr. Gesimba. Yes, I see a question from Kingsley Kimathi. Proceed.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Well, I just joined, but since the topic is such an interesting one, I would like to really understand where the topic or the theme of discussion today on the youth involvement in the global peace and sustainable development. Do the current global institutions generally create that space for us, or is it a mere symbolic involvement? And considering that we don't live in those ages where there are wars everywhere, countries going into war with each other, what does this global peace mean in this century, the 21st century, and the centuries to come? And how can you now redefine it beyond this absence of war? what is global peace beyond the aspect that there is no war or any other kind of such violence? Thank you.
Interesting. Over to you, speaker.
Right. Thank you for the question, Mr. Kingsley Kimathi, a very brilliant chap from Kisii University. He's the chief editor for the journal. Now, the first was regarding the institutions, if I'm not wrong. So yes, we have institutions that support the youth the world over, and well, their utility and action is not something that I would like to dwell on. For instance, in Kenya, we have the Ministry of Youth Affairs, we have the National Youth Council, the ministry in which you know the age of the minister, and the National Youth Council, which has been actually quite dormant since around 2018, which is almost 8 years ago. So towards the action of these institutions is not something that we can rely on. What we can rely on is our action and our own volition. One thing that I began advocating for during this call or during this meeting is that we cannot sit and wait for others to advocate for ourselves while we have the ability to do it. Yeah. So that's what I want to talk about the institutions. And that does not mean that we should ignore those institutions. In any case that we have an opening or we have vacancies, let's take up these positions. Let's be interested in them. They're ours anyway. So if we have, because I know the upcoming elections for the National Youth Council, for instance, in Kenya, I would like to see Kingsley Kimathi as a candidate for the chairmanship, because at least I know when you get there, you will do something and you will not engage in some of these problems that are plaguing us, like the auctioning of youth voices or the deliberate sideline of the same just to have a personal development of the whole agenda. Regarding your question on global peace, yes, we are not in a situation where countries are at war with each other, but I don't think that is the de facto position. It is not. We have some countries that are in conflict with each other. I will not be mentioning that right now because that's a whole different topic. We have, apart from countries that are in conflict with each other, we have intra-country conflicts. You know what is going on in Sudan. You know what is going on in DRC. And these are realities that we are alive to. So when we talk about global peace, we are not only talking about the Palestine issue and the Israel issue. We're also talking about what's going on in Sudan. Why do we need to silence these guns? Just as our moderator talked about, they've been silencing the guns since the year began. So how do we silence them? Because these guns are not being used by old people. Let's be honest. It's the youth who are going to use these guns, and it's the youth who are managing this machinery. So when we talk about global peace, it is beyond our borders of being harmonious, because anything that happens anywhere, they normally say that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere on earth. So that is why we're talking about global peace, and that's why it's quite relevant during this time. So I'm not sure if I am adequately in response of your concerns or not. Please, oh yeah, I can see a reaction. Thank you, sir. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you. I see another question from Faith. Proceed.
I believe I'm muted. Okay. Because sir, you have talked about us being, or rather the youth being very interested in positions that put them in, a global space rather. How do you think the youth societies would take to them giving innovations and them being implemented differently. From what I understand, there are situations whereby a youth group would be able to give a good pitch and, maybe their innovation is accepted and adopted, is aimed to be adopted rather by a certain organization or whatever, right? But during this implementation, there becomes a rather disconnect between the aims that the youth wanted to achieve versus what this organization will want to achieve. Yes, there is the part of going the independent way, but considering some of these youth might have already been members of such organizations, it is very different. And even the laws are very strict on what you can outsource and what you can insource in terms of such innovations, especially if there's already you know processes of applications in different places. So how do you think these youth communities can avoid such issues and be able to implement their innovations properly? Rana.
Sorry, our speaker proceed.
Right. Let me. I just want to be clear on Madam Faith's concern. Your concern is regarding organizations that would like to assist the youth, but not necessarily be aligned to their objectives. Is that your concern?
Yes, very correct, sir.
All right. Thank you. So, well, I just like to begin with the saying or the proverb that he who pays the piper calls the tune, and this is specifically regarding the innovation. I cannot give money. I'm saying this actually in personal capacity because you've asked what I think. I cannot give you money and not want to perhaps also have a say in how it's going to be used. So when we are dealing with these organizations, there's a very thin line between the alignment of objectives and adherence to the terms, because when we get into an arrangement as a youth group and another organization which would like to assist us, there are definitely terms that we'll agree upon. And, these are terms that we have agreed upon, meaning they're binding. And therefore, it gets a bit tough. That is not to say that there are violations that are occasioned upon some of our groups. We have violations of human rights, excuse me. We have violations of economic rights, and these now point towards the internationally ratified documents of law. We have the documents on civil and political rights. We have the documents on economic rights. So that's where we're going to find solace in. Despite that, then I would like to also point towards what I had mentioned with regards to innovation. When we find solutions to our own problems, then we're not going to need that much help or that much of a boost from organizations. We can do it ourselves. If perhaps you have a problem that is specific to people in Kenya or people in Africa, then you're not going to get the need to go outside to get that assistance. So those are the two thoughts that I would like to submit towards your concern.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Has your question been answered exhaustively?
Yes, it has. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 9 minutes before we finish the session, and I can see as time comes to the end, then the questions keep increasing. So, please allow me to just hand the microphone back to our speaker so that he can just share his last thoughts on this topic. And thereafter, the organizing committee, we're going to close up the session. So, Mr. Gesimba, over to you.
Right. Thank you for the microphone once more. I just want to thank the organizers, the Pan African Organization for Peace and Conflict Resolution, for organizing this conversation. And well, what I would like to say is this is not a conclusive conversation. I do not hold exclusive rights to what the future of youth leadership is and what global peace and sustainable development is. So let's keep the conversation going, because this is what's going to birth new ideas. This is what's going to birth implementation. Yeah. For instance, I've heard Ambassador Yvette, who I'm very sure is not from Kenya, talk about cooperatives. Perhaps now, after the meeting, we can have a conversation where we like, how do I build a cooperative in Kenya, and how can I link it with the one in your country? So let's remain in touch. Let's keep the conversation going, and let it not end at here, at the point of speaking and having ideas but not implementing. That's all I have to appeal to us. And well, lastly, the only thing I'd like to say is we are the only ones who have to change this. Earlier on, we used to say that it was our parents. You know, you sit back and say, my parents, instead of working hard and doing this, they were busy talking about sijui what and what. But now it is our time, because in a few years, our children will be the ones like, this person had the opportunity, so what did they do? So it's our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Please, on the count of 3, 2, 1, I would like you to join me in unmuting your microphones and telling our speaker, thank you, Mr. Gesimba. So on the count of 3, 2, 1. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Gesimba.